Oh, good morning. I'm back from my trip. I needed yesterday to recover. And here I am once again. Not the great sound, sorry. But nonetheless, here I am. This is TJ McCormick with Sing the Word. And today we are going to delve into a rather dark part of Scripture. And for those of us who have not studied this very deeply, just realize that there is a lot of stuff that goes on in this world that we don't see, we don't understand. I'll get to in a minute. Oh, wow. Wrong song. Hold everything. Well, let's fix this. How about that? Helps you have the right song. Let's see, make sure this is all right. It'll just be a second. All right, now we're ready. Sorry about that little technical glitch. Has been a couple days. Now, what will you do in the day of punishment and in the devastation which will come from afar? To whom will you plead for help, and where will you leave your wealth? Nothing remains but to crouch among the captives or fall among the slain. In spite of all of this, his anger does not turn away, and his hand is still stretched out. In spite of all of this, his anger does not turn away, and his hand is still stretched out. Now what will you do in the day of punishment and in the devastation which will come from afar? To whom will you flee for help, and where will you leave your wealth? Nothing remains but to crouch among the captives or fall among the slain. In spite of all of this, his anger does not turn away, and his hand is still stretched out. In spite of all of this, his anger does not turn away, and his hand is still stretched out. In spite of all of this, his anger does not turn away, and his hand is still stretched out. Oh, children, good morning. This is TJ McCormick with Sing the Word. But today, we're delving into something a little, I guess you might say darker, but no, it's still not darkness, it's light. But it is very sad to think that human beings like me get caught up in these war things, and they're being, slain, cut down. It's just terrible. Let's get to it. Now, what will you do in the day of punishment? And this is God's judgment, God's punishment on the people of this world who hate him, despise him. They have screamed just disgusting things about his name, about who he is. And these people don't stop. They hate God so much, and they hate God's people so much that they are doomed to be in this cycle of hatred. It's terrible. So now, this section of scripture is one of the many times that God has delivered real exacting punishment on people who hate him. And can you blame them? I mean, some of the stuff that is written is pretty bad, but I'm sure there's way worse stuff. And trust me, 21st century America is not the highest form of swearing and of cursing. Man, it goes back. What will you do in the day of punishment? So here we go. We are witnessing a moment when Isaiah is saying there's going to be a day of punishment. There's going to be a day when there will be not only punishment, a devastation. And we have seen wars in our lifetime and some in other people's lifetimes that where it's just not pretty. Men put on a mantle of death, and their only goal is to kill as many of the enemy as they can. They have to kill as many of the enemy as they can until the enemy says, I give up, we're going to do whatever you want. So fortunately, in our world, most of these wars have ended in something close to righteous, results. Not always, but at least it's not like dark dominions are totally taking over. But there are some countries we need to pray for, really. And the devastation which will come from afar probably means that it's a country far away that's kind of like, hey, Israel sounds like a good place to raid and destroy and pillage and plunder. Let's do it. And whether or not God puts it in their hearts, I don't understand all that, but I do know that God does allow his children to suffer, and this is one bad suffering time. He asked the question, to whom will you flee for help? If you're surrounded, it's kind of like you can't flee. And where will you leave your wealth? Now that's such an interesting statement, because I'm pretty sure that's tied into why Israel is being devastated. It's because they have put their wealth above God. And ladies, gentlemen, if you put your things, if you put anything before God, your Krugerrands, your Benjamins, what? If you put that before God, this is the question that God asks. Okay, we're gonna take this down. Where are you gonna put your wealth? Well, you try to hide it. I don't think it's gonna remain. Somebody is going to get to it. Nothing remains but to crouch among the captives. Okay, that's plan A. So in other words, I surrender. Here you go. You can have me. Or fall among the slain. And that's the weird one. But I don't know if you have heard stories, but there are times when people are dead around you and you're alive. You might try playing dead. And I've heard many accounts of people doing that and surviving when the people leave the area where they've done all the killing. So that might be what that means, a fall among the slain. It could also mean that you're done. You're going to die and you're just going to be in the midst of the slain. I don't know, but it's all bad. And then it gets worse. Yes, it does get worse. In spite of all of this, all this stuff, the devastation, the punishment, crouching among the captives, falling among the slain, in spite of all of this, God's anger does not turn away. And again, I'm telling you a portion of history that was proclaimed by Isaiah to have happened. And I'm not sure if it was the, whoever it was that got to Israel. This happened. And in spite of all of this, his anger does not turn away, and his hand is still stretched out. Now, I promise you that you will get a sampling of Isaiah that is not just the happy good stuff. I mean, it's going to be everything. You're going to get the whole shoot match. And this one is pretty rough. Let's try it again. Now what will you do in the day of punishment and in the devastation which will come from afar? To whom will you flee for help, and where will you leave your wealth? Nothing remains but to crouch among the captives or fall among the slain. In spite of all of this, his anger does not turn away, and his hand is still stretched out. In spite of all of this, his anger does not turn away, and his hand is still stretched out. In spite of all of this, his anger does not turn away, and his hand is still stretched out. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that was kind of a rough one. I know there's not a lot of singing and dancing in this one. It's just kind of like, here it is. But that's sing the word. Sing the word is not sing the happy. It's not sing the joyful. Sing the word is sing the word. We get it all. And I hope that you get a moment to thank God for mercy, because we see these glimpses of God's power, of God's justice, of God's righteousness, and of God's afflicting the people that he loves. Sometimes to change their hearts, but a lot of times just to say enough, enough. I'm so sorry that this has to happen, but that's God's nature. And I love God, and I love his laws, his all the stuff. I, I usually have precepts and ordinances right on the tip of my tongue, and it kind of danced away. But anyways, that is all, and no more traveling for a while. I will be back as soon as I can with chapter 11, and I hope all of you have a blessed day.